They didn't shift it, they survived it. Most transmissions are built to transfer power. This one was built to inflict trauma. The Lenco wasn't designed for comfort. It was designed for war. And in the world of drag racing, nothing hit harder, nothing broke more drive shafts, and nothing separated the drivers from the passengers quite like the lightning rods. Subscribe, because today we're talking about the gearbox that turned the quarter mile into a fist fight. Let's set the scene. Late 1960s. The horsepower wars are going nuclear. You've got guys building Hemis and blown big blocks pushing past 1,000 horsepower. But there was a weak link: the transmission. You could have the best engine in the world, but if you put a Muncie M22 rock crusher or a Ford top loader behind 1,000 horsepower on slicks, it wasn't a transmission anymore. It was a grenade with the pin pulled. Even the Turbo 400s were exploding, sending shrapnel through floorboards and taking off drivers' toes. Enter Leonard Abbinett, the man behind Lenco, L-E-N Company. Leonard looked at the carnage and realized the problem wasn't the gears, it was the design. Standard transmissions tried to slide gears together. That takes time. That creates friction. That breaks teeth. So Leonard didn't build a manual transmission. He didn't build an automatic. He built a modular, planetary weapon. He took the planetary gear sets, the bomb-proof guts of an automatic, and stacked them in individual cases. Each gear was its own self-contained unit. You want 2 speeds? Bolt 2 together. 3 speeds? Add another module. If you blew up second gear, you didn't scrap the transmission, you just unbolted the middle section, threw it in the trash, bolted in a new one, and made the next round. Where others built transmissions to shift smoothly, Lenco built one to never die. But here is where the Lenco separates the men from the boys: the operation. Walk up to a Lenco-equipped car and look inside. You won't see an H-pattern shifter. You'll see a row of levers, chrome spikes rising out of the floor. We call them lightning rods. Here's how it works. There is no clutch pedal for shifting. You use the clutch exactly once to leave the starting line. After that, it's pure violence. Each lever controls one planetary gear set. To shift, you don't lift off the gas. You don't push a clutch. You keep your foot buried in the firewall, engine screaming at 8,000 RPM, and you yank a lever back. Bam! Short. Hydraulic pressure dumps instantly. A clutch pack inside the planetary slams shut. The gear ratio changes in milliseconds. It's not a shift, it's a collision. The force is so violent it sends a shockwave through the entire chassis. You can actually see the car shudder on the track when a Lenco hits the next gear. You didn't just need power to run a Lenco. You needed courage. Because if you messed up, it bit back. The danger factor was off the charts. With a standard shifter, you might miss a gear. You hear a grind, you look stupid. With a Lenco, you have 3 or 4 levers. In the heat of a 4-second run, vibrating like you're inside a blender, you have to pull the right lever at the exact right split second. Pull 2 levers at once, the transmission locks up at 200 miles per hour. The drive shaft shatters, the tires lock, and you go into the wall. Pull a lever too late, you hit the rev limiter, nose over, and lose the race. Pull it too early, the torque multiplication hits the rear tires so hard they break traction at 150 miles per hour. You had to be a machine, perfect every single pass. Naturally, because this thing was cool, street racers wanted it. This was the 1980s underground scene. twin-turbo Camaros, nitrous Novas, guys who wanted to prove they had the baddest car on the boulevard. So, they bolted Lencos into streetcars. Disaster. First of all, there's no overdrive. You're cruising at 3,000 RPM just to do the speed limit. Second, the noise. A Lenco whines. It howls like a siren because of those straight-cut planetary gears. You couldn't hide from the cops. They heard you coming from 3 blocks away. But the real problem was the brutality. On a prepped track, the tires absorb the shock. On the street, that violence has to go somewhere. You'd see guys pull a lever at a stoplight race and twist their frame rails, shatter U-joints, snap axles. Early Pro Mod drivers described shifting a Lenco as dropping the hammer on a grenade. Doing that on Main Street wasn't just illegal, it was mechanical suicide. But the legends, they mastered it. Don, Big Daddy Garlitz, Kenny Bernstein, John Force, Warren Johnson. They all ran Lencos. They understood that this wasn't a set-it-and-forget-it part. It required respect. Teams would keep spare lever assemblies and sprags in the trailer because breakage was inevitable. Not because the Lenco was weak, but because the physics were impossible. The Lenco became the symbol of the real racer. If you looked in a cockpit and saw those levers, you knew the driver wasn't playing games. This wasn't a weekend warrior. This was a pilot. So, what happened? Evolution. Humans are slow. Humans make mistakes. Lenco started adding air shifters. CO2 bottles. Now instead of yanking a lever, you pressed a button and a pneumatic ram slammed the lever for you. Then came the timers. Computers that shifted automatically based on RPM. By the 1990s, nearly every serious drag class ran a Lenco or a derivative of it. But the street freak era faded. Automatics with trans brakes and high stall converters got better, smoother, and easier to drive. But go to a track today. Look at the Pro Mods. Look at the alcohol cars. Look at the nostalgia draggers. What's in the tunnel? Lenco. The design Leonard Abbinett drew up 50 years ago is still the gold standard for handling absolute horsepower. The Lenco didn't die. It just evolved. But the soul stayed the same. Instant, violent, mechanical perfection. It's a reminder of a time when going fast meant physically wrestling the machine down the track, when shifting gears meant risking your ankles and your ego on every single run. If you love the mechanics of speed, the parts that break, the parts that win, and the parts that scare us, hit that subscribe button. Next time, we're diving into the Detroit locker, why it clunks, why it bangs, and why it's the only differential that sounds like it's broken when it's working perfectly functional. You won't want to miss it.